You both came together. Does that mean you're both unemployed? Wouldn't it be better to look for jobs instead of coming here? The leader like mom, looking down on us for attending the school event together as a couple. Ms. Brown, asserting her superiority in front of the children, was acting all high and mighty. The event is about the children reading their essays about their parents' jobs. The children take turns reading their essays, and finally, it's our Christopher's turn. My dad's job is... As our son reads his essay, the classroom buzzes, and Patricia turns red and looks down. I'm Sharon Williams, a 34-year-old housewife. I recently moved to New York City with my husband, Jose, because of his job. Our son, Christopher, is now in 3rd grade. I feel sorry for him having to change schools at such a sensitive age, but he doesn't seem to mind. After unpacking, I asked Jose and Christopher to stay home, and I went to the elementary school in New York City. It was to complete Christopher's transfer procedures. When I reached the school gate, "Goodbye, teacher. See you, X." The cheerful voices of children can be heard. The teachers, greeting the children, wave with smiles. I explained the situation to one of the teachers, who guided me to the staff room. As I entered the entrance, I heard the voices of women. Turning the corner of the hallway where the staff room is, I saw parents and teachers arguing about something. They were arguing at the entrance of the staff room, causing the surrounding students and teachers to look annoyed. I'm advising for the good of this school. Why don't you teachers understand that? Do you think my advice is wrong? We understand your opinion. However, each family has their own circumstances. It's impossible for everyone to meet your standards. Then those families should move to another area. Especially you over there, you need to move for the sake of this school. What did we ever do? Everyone, calm down. Let's change places and discuss this. Excuse me. I'm here to transfer my son. Could you let me through? When I said that, the arguing parents and teachers all turned to look at me. One of the parents apologized and moved away from the entrance, and a teacher said, "Sorry for the trouble, let's change places," and invited me in. However, one parent, heavily made up and dressed flamboyantly, stared at me appraisingly. Is there something on me? Unable to bear the gaze, I asked, "What are you wearing?" Really, I'm tired of seeing so many shabby people. The parent snorted disdainfully and left. I watched her go in astonishment when the teacher spoke to me. I'm very sorry for the disturbance. How can I help you? I'm Sharon Williams. I'm here to complete my son's transfer procedures. I see. We can handle that here, please come in. Thank you. Who was that person just now? One of the parents, still visibly upset from the argument, replied to my question. That woman is Ms. Brown, the PTA president of this school. She's what you'd call a self-appointed leader. Her husband is a CEO and she's an executive, so she comes to the school flaunting her status. It's really troubling. Just earlier, she told me and my daughter that we looked poor and should move to another neighborhood. She's so full of herself just because she's wealthy. Is that so? Since you're here to register, you must have just moved in, right? Be careful with Ms. Brown. She can be a real nuisance once she sets her sights on you. Other parents and even a teacher nodded in agreement with this parent's opinion. Furthermore, from what I heard from the teachers and other parents, Ms. Brown often insults housewives, calling them unemployed. When you meet her on weekends, she shows off her expensive bags and accessories, asserting her superiority. It seems Ms. Brown is disliked by both the teachers and the parents. Sighing as I left the school, I thought about how challenging it would be to deal with the other parents. It has been a month since Christopher transferred to a school in New York City. Christopher hasn't been bullied by his classmates and goes to school happily every day. When he comes home, "I played with X today. I got praised by the teacher today." He eagerly shares his day with Jose and I. Listening to his stories, I was relieved that Christopher hadn't encountered any trouble. One night, Christopher handed us a piece of paper. It was an invitation to a class visit. For class, we're supposed to write and read an essay about our parents' jobs. So, I'd like Dad to come too, not just Mom. Christopher looked at Jose, hesitant. Checking his schedule on his smartphone, Jose smiled and said, "It looks like I have the day off." "Christopher, I'll come to the class visit, too." "Really? Yay! I can't wait." Christopher jumped with joy. Finding him adorable, I reminded him, "Don't jump around, honey. You'll disturb the neighbors downstairs." One weekday, while Christopher was at school, Jose and I went grocery shopping at a nearby supermarket. As we parked our bikes, a taxi stopped right in front of us. Stepping out was Ms. Brown, wearing clothes far too flashy for grocery shopping. Noticing me, Ms. Brown approached with a displeased expression. I considered ignoring her and walking away, but Jose greeted her, so I had to engage. "Hey, I saw you at school, didn't I? If I'm not mistaken, it was for the transfer registration." "Hello, Ms. Brown. I'm Sharon Williams. This is my husband, Jose." "Jose. Nice to meet you." After we introduced ourselves, Ms. Brown looked us over again, then pointed to our bike. "Wait, are you guys so poor that you can't even afford a car?" "No, it's not like that." Cutting off Jose, she turned to me and said, "Must be nice being a jobless wife, living off your husband." Jose looked at me, surprised by her rudeness. I shook my head at him and said to Ms. Brown, "We'll be going now." But she stopped us. "Wait, Sharon. You just moved here, so you probably don't know this, but we have a rule to listen to the whole story. So you should listen." Feeling words like such arrogance almost slipping out, I faced Ms. Brown. Jose, looking equally displeased, stood beside me. Ms. Brown began showing off her flashy bags and accessories, looking down on us. "Everything you're wearing is cheap. I can't believe you go out in such cheap clothes. It's no wonder you can't even afford a car. Who do you think you are? You've been looking down on us since a while ago. Watch your mouth. Honestly, I can't stand poor people. Your lack of manners is appalling. Stay away from me. I don't want to catch your poverty." "It was you who approached us, Ms. Brown." "Did you say something?" "No, nothing." Even after that, Ms. Brown continued to show off her flashy bags and accessories, looking down on us. I listened, thinking inwardly how vulgar she was. Satisfied, Ms. Brown said, "Make sure to dress better for the parent-teacher conference next week. I won't be responsible if you embarrass yourself." And left. As we watched her leave, Jose sighed heavily and said, "What's with that woman? And she's raising a kid?" "Her husband is a CEO, and she's the PTA president." "Is Christopher okay? I hope her kid isn't bullying him." "From what I can see, it doesn't seem like it." Jose and I sighed and then went shopping at the supermarket. Maybe Christopher is just pretending to be cheerful so we wouldn't worry. When feeling anxious, worries never seem to go away. At Jose's suggestion, we decided to pick up Christopher from school. From what we saw at the school gate, it didn't seem like he was being bullied. He was walking towards us, chatting happily with his new friends. When he spotted us, Christopher's face lit up. That's my mom and dad. He introduced us to his friends. After talking for a while, "See you tomorrow," he said to his friends and ran towards us. Seeing Christopher like this, Jose and I felt relieved. Before we knew it, the day of the parent-teacher conference arrived. Entering the classroom with Jose, we met Christopher's eyes, who had been looking forward to this day. He smiled and waved at us. Surrounded by the friends we saw the other day, they greeted us. "Hello, Mr. Williams, Mrs. Williams." I was impressed by the good manners of the kids these days. Dressed in flashy clothes, Ms. Brown approached us and said, "You two came together. Are you both unemployed? Shouldn't you be job hunting instead of coming here?" I was shocked that she would act this way in front of the kids. Looking at the faces of the other mothers, some were looking at Ms. Brown with disdain, while others avoided eye contact. Some were whispering among themselves. It seemed to be a common sight. Jose and I didn't say anything back and stood where we could see Christopher well. I couldn't figure out which child belonged to Ms. Brown, but since she was sitting next to us, I guessed it was the one near Christopher's seat. While I was trying to identify which child it was, the bell signaling the start of the class rang. The friends around Christopher took their seats, and the children placed 2 sheets of writing paper on their desks, waiting for the teacher to arrive. As I admired how well-behaved they were. That kid's clothes look so shabby. What kind of upbringing makes someone think that ridiculous hairstyle is acceptable? Ms. Brown alone was grumbling. Worried that the children might hear her, I noticed that a boy sitting 2 seats behind Christopher was looking down in embarrassment. He seemed like a quiet boy. He was dressed in expensive clothes, but his shoulders were hunched, perhaps due to nervousness. "Straighten up. You're drawing too much attention." When Ms. Brown addressed him, the boy hunched his shoulders even more and shrank back. It seemed that this boy was Ms. Brown's child. As I was feeling a mix of emotions, the door opened and the teacher entered. With your parents sitting at the back, many of you might be feeling nervous. Let's take a deep breath together. Follow me. The teacher began deep breathing exercises to help the children relax. At first, the breathing was normal, but when the teacher held his breath without exhaling, the children burst into laughter. Ms. Brown's child, who had been tense earlier, also started laughing, along with the other children. The teacher seemed to have a good sense of humor. All right, let's proceed in order. Dorothy, you go first. The children stood up one by one and began reading their essays. For 3rd graders, the essays were impressively well written, and I was thoroughly impressed. Remembering my own elementary school essays, which were never as good, it was finally Christopher's turn. Christopher smiled at us and began reading his essay. My dad is a pilot. He flies planes all over the world. My mom used to work as a flight attendant, but now she stays home and cooks delicious meals for us. As Christopher read his essay, the classroom buzzed with excitement. Despite the teacher's efforts to quiet them. Wow! Christopher's dad is so cool! The children exclaimed. Indeed, just as Christopher wrote, Jose was an international pilot, and I used to be a flight attendant. Last month, we moved from Barcelona to New York. I can only speak Spanish. But Dad and Mom can speak many languages. So they can make the passengers on the plane smile. Can you speak other languages? Christopher's dad and mom, say something. Feeling a bit flustered. Could you say hello in different languages? The teacher intervened. Jose and I greeted in Spanish, French, German, Korean, and Chinese, receiving applause from the children, the teacher, and the parents. Dad stays fit by riding a bike instead of driving a car. Mom rides with him. Thanks to that, Dad and Mom never catch colds and are really strong. Glancing at Ms. Brown, I noticed her face had turned red, and she was looking down. Last week, it seems she felt ashamed for mocking us when we were riding our bikes. Dad flies a plane, taking clients to foreign countries. Mom stays home, cooking meals and cleaning the house for me and Dad, keeping everything tidy. I love Dad for flying planes and Mom for keeping our home nice and clean. After finishing his essay, Christopher sat down. The classroom erupted in applause, and Christopher gave a shy smile as he looked our way. Jose gave him a thumbs up, and when I mouthed "Great job," Christopher beamed with happiness. Next, other children read their essays, and then it was Ms. Brown's child, Liam's turn. The essay was filled with difficult words, and Liam stumbled through it several times. It was obvious that his mother had intervened in writing it. While the teacher watched over Liam, Ms. Brown quietly slipped out of the classroom. After all the children had finished reading their essays, the teacher instructed them to post their essays on the classroom wall. I left Christopher with Jose and went over to comfort Liam. I knew it was self-satisfaction, but I just couldn't help but offer my support. Liam thanked me, but his face remained downcast. Later, I heard from other moms that Ms. Brown had resigned as PTA president and stopped coming to school. Even when we saw each other in town, she wouldn't initiate any conversation. While other parents and teachers seemed relieved by her absence, I couldn't share in their joy. Not showing up at school events made me feel incredibly sorry for her child. When I asked Christopher about Liam's condition, he said Liam seemed down. Sensing my concern for Liam, Christopher invited him over to our house. Apparently, they found common interests and hit it off. As they spent more time together, Liam gradually regained his smile. Christopher was thrilled to have made a best friend. Christopher is eagerly counting down the days until the weekend, when they're set to play at a nearby park. Jose has been visiting the school during breaks from work, giving special lectures about his job at the airport and as a pilot. Since Jose has held several classes at Christopher's school, Christopher has become quite popular. I was also asked to give lessons at the school, teaching Spanish. I'm grateful for having obtained my teaching license during my student days. The three of us are living happily and joyfully in New York every day.